Hi, Ben. Thank you for joining me for this. I'm ready to learn more about the origin story and the mission of Corbeau. So, first, I kind of want to kick this off. Tell me a little bit more about why the name Corbeau, where that came from.
Sure. Long time ago, galaxy far, far away, right? I was a young, eager project management professional. My career actually started early, right out of college. One of my first jobs was working help desk with Microsoft. This is back in the Windows 95, Windows 98 days. And I got my first taste of project management when the supervisor said, we need someone to get us ready for the Windows 2000 product launch. We need someone to set up, the knowledge base, the phone support network and business processes and all of that. And I just jumped all over it. I thought it was a great sort of extracurricular activity. Didn't know it at the time, but that was project management. And I just loved it. And really, I've been a project manager ever since. Well, I share that to say I spent a career working for various consulting firms, working in industry as well, and working my way out from project manager to mid-career to senior project manager to program manager and complex program manager, and then even portfolio manager within PMOs and building PMOs, governance, value realization, regulatory audit traceability, all of those things. And frankly, I had a midlife, mid-career crisis, and I just needed to take a break. $900 million programs, international work, a lot of politics, all of those things are just part of the process. But by this point in my career, I was just overwhelmed and kind of burned out. Not on project management itself, but it's just time in my career to pause and reassess. So I spent a summer in Europe, um, eating, touring, learning other languages, enjoying other cultures. And a friend called me about 7 months later. He said, "Hey, Ben, look, I know you're sort of taking a break, right? You're a sabbatical, but I have a small project for you and I think you'd love it. And I really need your help." So, as a favor to me, um, or as a favor rather, I went back and tried implementing an IT transformation ERP project. And what I learned was I really enjoyed the craft. I went back, I did that as a freelance consultant. Um, and it was a great project team. It was like solving a puzzle. Like, how can we, make up this time in the schedule? How can we do the testing for the new software faster? How can we train people in parallel? How do we address resistance to change? And believe it or not, it was a great first project back because we were under budget and we went live early and we had one of the most stable go lives of any of my career projects to date. Very satisfied client, fantastic top performing project team, both for the consulting side and for the customer side. I was very, very proud of what that team built. Um, I can't take any credit for it, but being a part of that, having the privilege of orchestrating schedules and relationships and integrations and deliverables and success recognition, it was truly an enlivening reminder of what I loved best about the craft of project management. And it started to tune me as an independent consulting professional towards this concept of project success. What were the ingredients from that that I can take forward to other teams, to other clients, to other projects? Now, you asked, what's the history behind the name or where did Corbeau come from? Um, well, I don't remember the exact story. I think I saw a nature show or something about ravens and crows and their ability to solve puzzles, and the fact that they also are kind of a community type bird. So if a human, for example, had fed a raven in the past, somehow the other ravens know in the future if that person comes back that that's a friendly. Conversely, if that person was rude, mean, or kind of you know untoward with the birds, they would remember that person as well, and they would warn the other birds. And so I thought that was interesting, and it kind of reminded me of the kind of project symbolism of awareness of each other, right? Covering for each other, um, but also being able to solve puzzles together. Um, And so, for whatever reason, I started looking at names like, Raven and whatever. And the French word, le corbeau, came up, and I understand it probably means raven more than crow, but crow or raven in English. But I liked the Latin root words of that, cor and bow. Cor usually meaning, heart, and bow meaning beautiful. And so beautiful heart mattered to me because I had come traditionally from a world of big consulting, long hours, big money, high prestige, high stress, all of that. I wanted to be a simple, clean, transparent, integrity first. What you see is what you get. Make a promise, keep the promise. I wanted to be the kind of project manager where, you know, where do we joke about the watermelon project where everything looks green on the outside, but really it's red on the inside? I wanted, if it's red, I'll tell you, and here's how we're going to get to green. I wanted to be that transparent, obvious partner type project manager. And so the thought of Corbeau, integrity first, lead with the heart, um, not just, hey, you're some working consultant that I hire, this dude in a suit sitting in a cubicle in the corner just doing some work. I really wanted to forge relationship driven consulting. And so Corbeau, to be fair, Corbeau, a company of one person, was born. Um, and we've just grown ever since now to what you know today as Corbeau Tech, which is a powerhouse of extremely talented and capable seasoned professionals in project management, uh, PMO delivery, um, technology forward use for success of project delivery, run book implementations, and now even we have the Project Success Academy that has spun out of the Corbeau consulting practice because we take those outstanding practitioners and we provide that knowledge to learning professionals as well, so they can also be successful project practitioners. And that's the story behind Corbeau and a little bit of story behind the name.
You for sharing that. I always love origin stories on things, and I do think that the naming conventions and the symbolism matter. So I appreciate you sharing that. So tell me a little bit more about Corbeau as it exists today. What is the main mission of Corbeau in business today?
Yeah, I think Corbeau's focus, particularly now, is getting businesses through this pivot point in the technology shift. Okay, so we are a technology forward project success practitioner firm. We do
Okay.
specialize in implementing a rapid delivery, rapid build out of successful enterprise project management offices to varying degrees. So tailored to business needs, line of business. We've done it obviously for technology organizations. We've done it for healthcare organizations, nonprofits. The idea is by being technology forward, we can take away some of the mechanical burdens that used to plague traditional PMOs. And quite frankly, I think there was a stat I saw from PMI. It's an older article, to be fair, but 80% of PMOs can fail in the first 3 years. And a lot of that is driven by the perceived unnecessary rigor. Oh, I've got to fill out more paperwork. Oh, I've got to go through a change order. Oh, I've got to do a spreadsheet, 10 more emails, 50 more meetings. Executives don't necessarily want to spend energy on that, and they can be a bit of a tax on our focus. So Corbeau wanted to take the best of what PMOs can provide, transparency and visibility into what your priority projects look like in the pipeline, uh, rapid assessment of score, prioritization, and health of your projects, clear governance on decision making, why one might be more priority than another, and even what if scenarios and options. You know what, if we pause this project and we bring this one up, what are the implications of that? Getting leaders that kind of insight more quickly, whereas traditionally it took meetings and manual research and impact analyses. Those things still happen, but we're at the edge of an exciting time where the technology accelerates that for us. It gives us visibility and insights we hadn't been able to see before. And we can bring that to executives, decision makers more quickly and with options, predicted outcomes or what if scenarios, much, much more than we ever had in the past. And so that's what Corbeau does. We're trying to bring um, leadership, businesses, project managers, even individual projects, that kind of rapid insight, that rapid ability to make informed decisions. So that's what we're about. Is it's the new age of empowered project success.
Very cool. So you mentioned that you've worked in different industries such as healthcare, IT, and nonprofits. I am sure that there is a multitude of differences and variances between those industries, but tell me maybe two or three of the most common problems or challenges that you see industries have, no matter what industry it is at this point.
So both as an individual and as a member of consulting firms, large PMOs, industry PMOs, global integrated projects. It's not just anecdotal. It is my observation that while there are a lot of things that can contribute to project failure, project stalling, overruns, overspending, all of that, a lot of people say, oh, it's the communication breakdowns. Oh, it's the unknown risks. Oh, it's politics. All of those can be contributors, but I think the node that I would say exists in all of those scenarios, all industries, is the inability to make timely decisions. And the reason I say that is I think project sponsors, I think executive sponsors, I think, heck, even, the board or even shareholders, if they could assist by removing blockers, if they could assist by allocating more money or resources so that for the good of the project, they get back to green for greater savings or greater benefit realization on time or sooner, that if they were so empowered that they could do that. And I've been on so many complex, integrated, multi-million dollar initiatives where it's not because sponsors don't want to be part of the process. It's not because the executives don't want to help or see it to success. It's because we get so tangled up in not being able to give them the information and the options they need to make great and rapid decisions. I've been in situations where we couldn't get estimates on what work would take, and then 3 weeks later, you have a steering committee meeting or a decision meeting, and by the time you make that decision, your go live is already pushed out 4 months, and then you got to talk to the regulators and the users, and you got to run it by the commission and the board. It's too late. Obviously, I'm using a larger impact example, but imagine if, kind of like when we drive on vacation, we rent a car, we get the mobile device, we put it on the dashboard, right? You're using Waze or Google Maps. It doesn't take minutes to say take the frontage road when there's an accident on the freeway, right? It's going to say take the frontage road ahead, or it'll say, take the left turn as an alternate route, or you could even look at alternate routes. Project management, particularly with Corbeau's methodology, is moving towards that concept of project navigation, project success navigation, where you have more and more opportunity to make informed, real-time, impactful decisions as a driver, sponsor, a stakeholder, a project manager on these journeys to project success. So I like to use that project success navigation analogy quite a great deal, because I think that's the future of project success. And I think the contribute, again, this is just to reinforce, I think past failures weren't because we didn't know what we were doing. It wasn't because we didn't have an extremely talented team. It's because we were unaware of all of the things going on in our environment around regulatory, culture, time zones, policy, material receivables, any number of things. And those things are stacking up. And we're so busy addressing those things right now today that I can't lead you to a what if opportunity decision tomorrow. I'm so busy trying to fix this. And then by the time I bring you options to fix it, it's probably too late to make that decision to fix it anyway. I hope that makes a little bit of sense. I'm not sure if that's where you were going with the question, but I feel
Actually, I
that has been
really,
that's the biggest opportunity to the modern PMO is that rapid decision
yeah.
making.
So how does if you could give me an example, how does Corbeau use the new technology that we have available to us today to help accelerate those decision points?
Yeah, I mean, this is a shameless plug, but I think it's not just the future, but the opportunity today even is using a project success navigation tool like Corbeau's Crow's Nest. So decades of experience of real project managers, um, real software developers, and data excellence through some of our data architects. We created a mobile first application that allows executives and team members alike, doesn't matter, to download the free app. So it's unlimited access to the app so people can see what's going on with their project. Now, most people who hear this say, oh God, I have to buy another app. Please make it stop. Um, the good news is it's a navigator. So what I mean by that is you don't stop using the tools you already have. If you're using Microsoft Project Enterprise or you're using Primavera or using Asana, you're using Monday.com, don't stop using any of that. Keep doing what you're doing. Okay. This is something that watches, it connects to, and it sees what's going on in your day-to-day already existing tools, gathers all that information, it aggregates it into useful, valuable project performance information, and from there it literally can give recommendations to help you navigate. It can see, for example, that maybe if you're developing software, that certain features are a little behind because that sprint was not very productive, right? And it can give you advice. And it could say, well, in order to get the release, you might want to, have a backup team, or you might want to put that in a cleanup sprint later, or things like that. So it can give thoughts or ideas in the journey of a project. So you have options, near real-time options. So again, while it's not literally automating what I call the transactional part of project management, it is giving you insights on what to automate. So you could use Asana Smarter, or you could delegate certain testing activities to make up time, for example. So it's just going to watch what's going on. And again, this is eerily a lot like the driving example. If a project is a road trip, then we have all our family in the van. You got kids in the back, right? You get the parents in the front, and it's full of luggage, and we're all driving to our destination. And that destination is project success. You've got your navigator on the dashboard. The kids in the back, now with a tool like Crow's Nest, which is our project success navigation app, with a tool like that, even the kids in the back, darn it, are we there yet? Are we there yet? No, they could see on the phone, 15 minutes until the next gas station, 3 hours until our destination. They can see that maybe we need to take a frontage road, right? So they're plugged into, they're informed about the journey. So imagine metaphorically, executives, project managers, heck, even the janitor understands that your project is on pace or off pace, where and why it's on or off pace, and what we might be able to do about it to get back on track. Quote, take the frontage road, right? So we think that the technology is a great aid in that process. If you couple that with lightweight and rightly tailored governance, change control management, clear communication, rapid decision processes, and prioritization of your portfolio of work, you have the ability to navigate all of these projects in flight at the same time, see what happens when one moves and one's stalled and one's green and one's red. You can finally make informed decision, hopefully reduce the amount of capital and time that goes to waste and to failure, and realize the value of your project much, much sooner. You asked about a real world example. When we were implementing the PMO, the executive PMO for one of our healthcare clients, they asked us to simultaneously kind of help run some in-flight projects while we were building the PMO. We were able to do that because we come in prepared, right, with the methodology, with a run book. Now, of course, we interviewed the client. We made it fit their culture, their people, their staffing, whatever. But we were able to take on two projects. One was to staff emergency departments, get that going. Some of them was to fire up a clinic, for example, but just help them get a little bit of discipline around projects that in the past had really struggled, because by nature, they specialize in healthcare, right? They specialize in emergency department support, clinical support. They have some pharmacies. They're not project managers by trade. And so even though they might have a PM at one of the hospitals in one state and maybe a supervisor in one of the other hospitals in another state, maybe they're both supposed to do some kind of regulatory thing, and then you got to borrow, beg, steal. Who gets the attention? Who's the project manager? Is there a standard template to use? Is there a standard reporting mechanism? How do I know what the status is? And no disrespect, but they specialize in running clinics, not running projects. So they may not even know how to report red, yellow, green, and they shouldn't have to. So having Corbeau come in with your very robust run book and immediately applying only the things that matter right now, low hanging fruit, easy transition, easy to learn, easy to use. You reinforce that. You do it with them, shoulder to shoulder. We were able to start to bring these project behaviors into place, put these harmonized project management tools into place, and they could finish these projects in flight while they were implementing a PMO and see real benefits right away. And so then clinics could get started. QA could finish on some of their services that they wanted to launch. And they could start to realize benefits, right? They could start patient intake, for example, on some of those locations because the projects finally were able to finish. So I know that's been long-winded, and I went off on a diatribe, but it was exciting to see, given my now almost 30 years doing this, how much more quickly we can see results for projects across multiple industries now. I mean, it used to be, okay, in IT, you'd have this concept of a minimal viable product, and you can kind of kick the tires on a little software app. But nowadays, it's like, can I more rapidly get a cardiothoracic service offered at a hospital, right? And then get patients taken care of more quickly. You know, stand up an emergency triage situation in a flood situation, or things like that. It's neat to have real world impact and almost in that real world 3D space, realize projects more quickly. It's very gratifying.
I loved when you described the shoulder to shoulder approach because in my past I have been on many larger projects in the past that have had a lot of different consultants and I've had very mixed experiences with some of those consultants. So can you talk a little bit more about the differences with the Corbeau team and the mindset with how we integrate with the clients versus maybe very large companies, and what's the difference?
Yeah, and this will sound offensive. I don't mean, but I'm going to challenge the question a little bit. You know, how does it differ against bigger clients? Actually, our clients are big, right? It's Fortune
Okay.
100, maybe Fortune 500. Um, we deliberately compete with traditional larger firms. Um, that's fair, but we still offer that shoulder to shoulder. We have a stake in it. You and I talked a moment ago about the name Corbeau, and what it really means to me is, you know, integrity, looking out for each other, some of the symbolism behind that. And those actually are core tenets for our consulting team. Okay, so concepts around closing the loop, taking responsibility. Everybody maybe common practitioners use RACI, responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. However, we have double RACI. We have a big R and a little r. I jokingly call it the big R and the little raven, right? But there's, yes, there can only be one responsible person, but we always have what I call the understudy, someone on your shoulder, a wingman or woman, if you will, that's learning that so that there's coverage. And eventually there's going to be a progression. So if that person is promoted or moved, you have a much, much more rapid coverage, transition, etc. Also helps even if that person's out, you have a backup at all times. And we map out in the run book all of these business processes for governance, for decision making, pipeline management, intake, project closeout, benefits realization. Hundreds of processes are mapped out, and there's always an overlap of some kind. There's always a coverage so that someone is always the understudy, if you will, the little r, responsible party to learn, manage, even lead those processes so nothing falls through the cracks. And that could only work with that almost by definition, that double RACI forces a shoulder shoulder. We very often implement those in the early stages, client side, Corbeau person, right? So you have a two in the box kind of thing. And maybe Corbeau's the big R, right, for the early stages. And then by month 2 or 3, we swap that out. And then you put in the new little r as Corbeau rolls off. Another thing that's a differentiator for us, um, it was important to us that you receive value not just from the projects, but from your experience with Corbeau. We have an unofficial tagline. I don't say this um, flippantly. It can sound that way, but it's um, Corbeau. We get in, we leave, and we leave you better. The idea being we're there to deliver the mission, right? To be held to our promise, make a promise, keep a promise. And if you're good to go as a consultant, we don't stick around, right? There's kind of a bad taste in some clients' mouths where, they'll bring in a consultant, maybe the lowest bidder, and then you get a change order because, oh, that wasn't in scope or there's an overrun. Oh, we need to extend and add this feature. And it goes longer and longer and longer. And then once you go live or you're done, we still need them around for this phase two that wasn't originally in mind, or I need them to run our operational processes because we didn't have time to train our own people or hire our own people. It was important to us at Corbeau to offer a PMO implementation package where frankly, it's soup to nuts. It's the whole thing. So the entire experience, as you described, come in with a run book. We have interviews, assessments. We understand, it's important to us to understand and become part of your culture. What are your tools? What works for you? What are some challenges and gaps? Can we harmonize those across departments, right? What are the strengths you have today? Let's leverage that, right? As much as we can as your starting point. And then we double R, right? Big R, little r for that learning, transition, and implementation, tools, processes, and people. And then we work our way such that we kind of wedge ourselves out. So Corbeau will start to roll off, ensuring that you've been cross-trained and supported so that you become self-sufficient. We also, in that full package, assist with hiring and placement. So if implementing your PMO or those parts of project management capabilities within an organization or OCM or business analysis needs, we help you hire and build out and fill out your PMO or your project organization before we leave as well. So it was just important. It's like, look, Corbeau, I trust you. Come in here, lead us through it, right? Show me how to dance, and then let me go build my own team and we'll dance on our own.
I think that's an important delineation. I think that's an important mindset as well, not just for companies, because you do want to empower people, not enable them. It's kind of the same thing with coaching journeys or mentorship journeys. That's not actually meant to last the full duration of life. It's for a purported purpose, and every person and every company should be on a continual evolution and journey where their business model and what constitutes value to them changes over time. So the goal, I agree with you, as project professionals and practitioners should be to leave people and organizations better than when we walked in. It doesn't mean we're just going to split. It just means we've done our job well enough that we've trained you on these core tenets and principles so you're able to run them yourself. So thank you for sharing that because I have seen a lot of contracts and a lot of contractors in what I'm going to call the linger phase, where it may not be as valuable as it once was during a portion of time, but they are still maybe just staying to stay when even PMI's original definition of project before it recently changed was temporary and unique
Mm.
project. But I do love PMI's transition more to value. Kind of as a closeout on this conversation, I wanted to focus, and we've talked a lot around it about the topic of value. And you mentioned earlier just getting into different organizations and tailoring to that culture. Can you speak about the importance of that and why it's important for us project professionals to have a wide variety of tools and know when to pull which ones out to tailor to provide value for the specific situation?
So I'm actually going to answer that with kind of going back to how the Corbeau EPMO implementation model works. So we talked a little bit about exactly what you said, aligning the culture first, right? We have this entire playbook, tool set, PMIS, data model, the whole thing. So you can have stability and harmonization of your project portfolio data and performance information. You can have processes, you can have RACEs, all of that stuff. But I can't just literally throw the book at you. And I think when I was with big consulting, this is where I made the mistake. I'm like, I've got me a maturity model level 5 book here, and this client's paying a lot of money to me and my firm. I'm just going to give them the level 5 book. All right, well, that's like when I was in middle school. If you handed me, mathematical formulas to calculate um, differential equations or something, right? To understand fractals, when really I'm just trying to figure out algebra. That doesn't mean I wouldn't get there if I really wanted to pursue math, but it's like I don't need to understand how to measure the curve of a black hole. I just need to be able to balance my checkbook, right? So
Right.
now that doesn't mean I don't want it, right? So we come at it, we have the whole thing. Tool sets across multiple transactional project management systems. It doesn't matter. Jira, Monday. We understand all that. So we adapt to the client's culture. You just keep doing what you're doing. We're going to find all the strengths that you do great. We're going to superimpose that as a fit on this, I'll call it maturity level 5 book, if you will. And we're going to pick the ones that are the low hanging fruit, easy to adopt. They make perfect sense based off of how you do things today. Plus the ones that are going to give you high value. They may take some learning, a little bit of curve, but it's like, oh, that's been causing us headaches when all we had to do was introduce this new meeting cadence, this new habit, maybe a check-in point or an update to our status reports, right? By the time we get to say month 5 or 6, and we talked about that wedge and the big R and the little r, and your team is self-sufficient, you've hired the people that you want to build out your organization, it's not very well, good luck with that. You've been left with that in your book, that maturity model, 90-day, 180-day, full year, and then a 3-year model on how to get to the next maturity level. You're like, oh, I've got this level 5 book. I've mastered algebra. What's next? Well, maybe it's the next level of math, right? You're doing integrations. Differential equations will come later. Those of you that follow math, please don't. But you get the idea, right? I want to get to level 2. How do I do that? Can I do some of the level 2 stuff in the next 90 days? Can I get to level 3 by the end of year 1? And it's broader use of tools and techniques. It's newer habits. It's new levels of governance. But it's a roadmap so that you can continue to grow. And if you need us, we'll be here, right? We never leave people out to dry. We like to keep the relationship intact, whether commercial or just professional. It doesn't matter. We want to see every agency succeed. I'll close with, in that maturity belt, empowering you to be able to follow a recipe book to mature your organization. It's going to vary like any project plan would the very first day. The plan is just something helpful. You're going to have to adapt it. You're going to have to adopt it. You're going to have to modify it. But things will change. Technologies will change. Tools will change. And we hope to be there, perhaps with a Project Success Academy relationship for your team members to keep their skills up to date. We offer check-ins and things like that to make sure that the tools are what you need, that the governance is what you need, that your portfolio, you're able to track it. But our biggest focus is to not become another one of those 80% of PMOs that fails. So those fragile 90 days, that first 90 days is a very high attention time to get your organization up to level 2, to build a lot of those practices into habits and make sure that they're adopted and understood. And then from there, you do the next 90 days, and the next 90 days, and the next 90 days. Nice and slow, because you will have already realized high value on that first release of your project management office. It'd be great if you can get higher value by day 90, but you want to make sure that it's solid. You want to make sure that it's stable. And I think there's a rush. This is my biggest failure when I was big consulting. Here's level 5. You got to do it all tomorrow. And it was what we talked about at the beginning. It's too much rigor. Ben, I don't want to do this. I don't have time for this. I can't fill out 50 change assessment forms.
Right.
I can't be reading a 900-page pipeline document. Like, the scorecards don't make sense. It's all too much. So we want to make sure that it's a fit. So hopefully that answers your question about value from the standpoint of its value if it's valuable to me. And I'm talking about the value of the vehicle. It's kind of like when my mom loved cooking, right? And she would love to knead the dough with her hand. She loved to feel the cooking, right? That was her way, and that's like that was the culture for her. But like all of us, our hands get tired as we age a little bit, and so it was time to get the mixing bowl. And man, she loved that KitchenAid mixer, man, with the big bowl and the kneader and the whole thing. And she used to let that thing sing, man. She put a lot of mileage on that monster, which of course didn't help my waistline. But I loved it when she baked. Um, but it was time for her to advance, to level up, to go to maturity level two, not because she wasn't capable or didn't understand why the manual way did or didn't work. It was just time to work smarter. We're
Right.
trying to be that help, that smarter. So when I think about value, was the value that mom could cook for her family? Sure. But that output, those cookies, that banana bread, that was the project. The value was the vehicle. She found a better, adoptable, smarter way of working. It wasn't painful for her to adopt using the mixing bowl. A couple minutes of plugging it in and understanding the mechanisms and the safety and all of that. And then once she understood the process, she adopted it, and man, the projects were rolling off the assembly line, right? We want that with and for our clients. And so when
Right.
you ask me about what's the value, I would argue the value is the mechanism. It's your EPMO. It's the people, it's the process and governance, and it's the data model, right? It's the process, the people, and the tech. We provide all of those, whether it's your tech, our tech, your people, our people. We want to get you there. We want to get you there fast, and we want to make it stable because we will not. I absolutely refuse to be one of those 80% PMO failure statistics. We would not let that happen to our clients.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate the metaphors too, because that kind of helps to make it make sense. And even your stress on sustainability. I think that's so important because a lot of people do get into such a rush, whether it's on projects, with business, with certification and learning. And it's important for all of us to remember to take things in stages so it sticks and we can retain that knowledge and keep building upon those foundations in the future.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
uh, this has been awesome as usual. So, thank you so much for your time and the answers
Thanks,
to
Jenny.
these. So, I can't wait to do it again.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Jenny. We'll talk soon.